Hey guys, welcome to Aussie Wristwatch. I'm Jess, and oops, I did it again. MoonSwatch. I don't know, hype or not, love them, hate them. I guess I love them because I bought another one, as did my wife. That is also here, and I'm going to talk about them as best as I can, somewhat side by side, because we got two different variants. Two of the most, I guess, hyped of late. So we're talking about the MoonSwatch 1965, yes, and the Mission to MoonPhase Full Moon. I mean, even the names are a mouthful, but they're still pretty cool. One thing I will say about these watches that I said previously when they first came out and I did an initial review, they're very accessible. And for someone who dreams or aspires to maybe have an Omega but can't, which was me, like for a very, very long time, I would have thrown myself to get one of these watches. So I think they are genius. Genius bioceramic, but that's another issue. Let's get into it, shall we? So let's start with our 1965, which keeps things traditional and classy to a very strong degree. Whilst it's got the grey bioceramic, which I have to say gives it a nice little flair, to be honest with you. I quite like this grey. I think it's quite lovely. Keeps the white dial, the black tachometer bezel, and it's got that very Speedmaster DNA, 100%. It's very heritage inspired, but it's instantly familiar. In contrast, the full moon takes the same silhouette and it just goes to town on complete white on white on white. It is so white. It's actually the reason I decided to get it, because I was like, "Woo, that's a little different." But it's very modern looking and super classy, if you ask me. I quite enjoy it. Now, if you kind of prefer something a little vintage inspired, you're probably going to want to go for the 1965. It's not like the white that's very modern, very new, very clean, very slick. Doesn't quite have that heritage feel to it. Where do these watches come from? What is their heritage? NASA. Astronauts and the moon. So, in the 1965 celebrates a milestone. It's the year Omega Speedmaster was officially flight qualified by NASA. The two chronograph subdials literally mark the history, reading 19 and 65 instead of the usual 12 and 30. It's a little Easter egg for collectors, I reckon, and one that I didn't readily pick up until I, stared at this watch for quite some time. The full moon, on the other hand, it continues the story, but it's not looking backwards, it's going forwards. Effectively, it's expanding on that MoonSwatch universe, right? So it introduces the first ever MoonPhase complication, which is pretty wild for a little Swatch watch. And it's got Snoopy lounging on the moon. So if you grab your UV light, which I have here somewhere, and you give it a go with this thing, it really does give you some little gems to see. And I will show that to you as I am speaking because it looks so cool. But it's like, I can't sleep without a hidden nightlight, I think is the key to this one, which is exactly what it says. And it's so cute. At the end of the day, though, it's playful, it's nostalgic. It's not necessarily giving you the same nod that you would get from an actual Speedy, but, you know, you're paying a fraction of the price, and we'll get to that very shortly. But let's talk about specs for a second. So they're 42 mil in diameter, 30 millimeter thick. 47 mil lug to lug. They've got the bioceramic material, which is 2/3 ceramic, 1/3 biosourced resin, and it's lightweight, matte, and it's very wearable. Is it water resistant? Well, it's 3 bar. So splashing around in the wind, but don't go swimming in these things. And really, I mean, you wouldn't. You just wouldn't. I mean, I don't even go swimming in my dive watches, which is probably crazy to a lot of people, but not for me. It's quartz chronograph. It's reliable, maintenance-free. But it's not obviously mechanical like your original Omegas. But that's not what you're paying for here, right? And the straps come with these Velcro straps that initially, you may recall, the first MoonSwatch I had, hated it. Took it off, put an alternative strap on there. It might have been a Horus strap or something, which also looks cool. But these new ones, whilst they're still a little cheap, are actually a little bit more wearable, a little bit more comfortable, and I don't mind it so much now. I think I prefer it more on the MoonPhase because it's completely white, and so it just goes so well with this watch. How do they feel? Well, they feel effortless and weightless on the wrist. So if you're after a very light feeling, almost don't know it's there kind of watch, this is potentially the watch for you. The 1965 does feel classic, right? It's slightly more versatile, and it's something that you could probably wear to work as well as on the weekends because of the grey and the black. And even if you took the Velcro strap off and you either put a black strap or grey or something along those lines, you're going to be able to dress it up or dress it down. But the full moon phase is probably more of a statement watch because it's so bright and it's so in your face. I guess you could wear it to the office or on the weekend. Either of those things would still apply depending on your office. I could probably get away with it, but that's because I wear outrageous shoes and people are used to me wearing things with a little flair. But look, it's to each their own in terms of that and the look, right? So what's the price on these babies? Let's talk Aussie dollars. So we're talking $450 for the 1965. And it's about $550 for the MoonPhase, so $100 more. Is it worth it? I don't know. It's a personal taste difference in my view. I bought it, so it was worth it to me. I don't know how I managed to get these watches other than it was a fluke. So Sydney had Watch Fest 2025 this week, and I went to the watch crawl. And because that event was happening, and I think there was many other things happening in town that week, and on that day, the Swatch store happened to have all of the watches available. So I took advantage of that and pounced. But it's not always the case. Standing, there were a lot of us out there, probably myself included to an extent, who thought these watches were quite hyped when they first launched. What was it, 2 or 3 years ago now? They have withstood the test of time. They are still around, they are still selling, and they are still bringing out different variants, and people are clamoring over themselves to get them. So yes, I think Swatch, that was genius. The Blanc Ponc is also amazing. I don't have any of those, but I have seen them and admired them every time I walk past the Swatch store in Sydney. And I think, yes, marketing genius. And again, what great value to get a watch at call it this one, sub $500 Australian. So for everyone else in the world that doesn't have monopoly money, that's even cheaper. You've got the Omega symbol on there. Sure, it's not a mechanical movement or an automatic movement. It's not an Omega, but it's a collaboration. And if you want to own an Omega, I guess, I still think it's a really good option because not all of us can afford to spend $16,000 on a Speedy, because let's face it, that's an outrageous price, by the way. Maybe they're not 16. I'm thinking of the Speedmaster, but they're still quite expensive. I think they're at least now around the 11,000 mark, now that I've thought about that off the top of my head. But in any regard, I still feel like it's quite a lot of money for that watch. Particularly, dare I say it, if you're thinking about the Tudors of the world, for example, which are all sub $10,000. I know, I've probably said something very controversial. Are there any pros and cons other than the waffle that I've just told you about? Well, it depends. I think it's to what we said, right? It depends on what you like. Of course, I've just bought something all white. It's like all white sneakers. It's going to get a scuff on it eventually, and then it'll all be downhill from there. And one day it'll just be this decaying brownish, yellowish coloured band and watch. But who cares? I don't care. It cost me $500. This one you're not going to notice as much. You know, and it's, as I said, it's subtle and it's classy. Put that on a black strap. Who's going to know? Love it. Okay, so if I had to sum them up, maybe we'd say the 1965 is for more the historian or the classic sort of vintage or historical buyer. Whereas the MoonPhase, you know, maybe that's for the dreamer in us or the modern day enthusiast, because it's got a little bit of that modern day flair. But I don't know, what would you pick? Would you go for nostalgia, 1965, or more that dreamy MoonPhase with the cute little Snoopy happening? I mean, it's certainly cheaper than buying a Snoopy, which I think at last I checked to try and get one of those babies is, you know, way too expensive. So off my list, unfortunately. But why don't you let me know in the comments below, and don't forget to, you know, do all those things, like, subscribe, tell your friends about me. Let me know what moon swatches you have. And if you're an avid collector of them and have all of them, I'd love to know about that and what you think of them some years on from the first launch and the first bit of hype. I think Swatch have done an excellent job to keep this one going, but let me know what you think. Until next time, everyone, have a good one.